I'm going to give you guys a little bit of information this evening, but I realise that a lot of you are very, very tired after a long day of sunshine and oxygen and food, so try not to fall asleep. Those of you who are going to plan to go to college, I'm going to give you a couple of tips in the next 6 slides on how to get a degree with your hands covering your eyes and sleeping in your bed. It's actually quite straightforward. Science and politics. I was introduced to this whole dynamic studying in the United Kingdom. Probably one of the worst experiences of my life, and it will be for some of you as well, which you'll find out shortly. Politics has infestated the scientific world for about 20 years because people realise, well, if you can make the science support anything you say, lots of people will vote for you. So, in a minute, I'm going to ask you all a few questions. Firstly, how many of you are in secondary education studying science right now? Put your hands up. Any of you studying science are you a teenager studying science? Okay, cool. How many of you are having your education funded privately? Having it paid for by mum and dad or a scholarship or whatever? Okay, all right, okay, this is getting interesting. How many of you can tell me 2 bits of information? Click. If it's frozen, I'm going to shoot it. There we go. And one more. That'll do it. How many of you can tell me the 2 main principles of science?
Well, there's one right there.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Anyone can give me the 2 main principles of science? Oh, there they are. You lost out. How many of you can tell me the 3 main study paths of science? Parents, I got one word for you: refund. Yeah? That's a big fail. These are the main areas of science. You've got a hypothesis. You come up with an area where you can collect data to prove the hypothesis right or wrong. To do that, you have 3 areas of study. You've got literacy, observational, and experimental studies. That's science for you. It will fall into one of those 3 categories. There is no religion, there is no faith, there is no belief, there is nothing along those lines involved in science. There never has been, there never will be. Because science is a tool for solving problems. It's not a way of life. They wouldn't tell you that at university though, will they? Because we've all seen they've got a church of science now. We don't need a God. We can use science for it all. Quite a bit difficult though. Next slide, please. There are 1 or 2 problems with science. One of the first problems you're going to come across, click, is the following. Advocacy research. You've all heard of it. You would call it fraud. It's where you hire in a bunch of scientists to support a certain agenda and produce scientific evidence to support that agenda, irrelevant of if it's true. The pursuit of truth is the backbone of Christianity. It's the backbone of everything that we hold dear. Unfortunately, science has taken hold of this wonderful problem-solving concept and decided, let's just make it up as we go along. Let's produce falsified information. Let's go down the road and say, hey, we can have a favoured hypothesis. Let's go down the road of climate change. What will really get people pouring money into saving the planet? Oh, that's right. Combustion engines and CO2. But carbon dioxide, CO2, happens to be the lifeblood of everything that we have today. Everything that's green lives on it. Everything that feeds on the green feeds us. So without it, there goes your human population. It shrinks by a huge margin. And yet everyone believes that carbon dioxide is an evil gas. Myself and Lord Monckton, as you'll find out later this week, have proven carbon dioxide has nothing to do with climate change, nothing to do with global warming at all. It's completely irrelevant. But you wouldn't believe that when you look at the news or when you go to university. Click. The other one that you're going to face when you look at scientific information is the following. Is it good? Author's formula. This is a classic of university lecturers' standards. They'll stand there and say, I have been published 150 times in multiple different journals. I'm an expert in my field. Everybody's an expert these days. The truth of the matter is a lot of them just take a whole load of information that everybody else has said, regurgitate it in their own language and have it published. That's called supporting the political agenda. That's not science, that's politics. Again, it's not the truth. Most scientists that I've met at university do not tell the truth. And as a student who's about to graduate, I can tell you that I've proven empirically that if you go against their agenda, they will fail you. By every means possible, they will fail you at your university degree. So what am I trying to tell you tonight? It's quite simple. Do as you're told, but don't let them dictate how you live your life as Christians. Stay loyal to God and he'll be loyal to you. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. The reason why I say that to you is because when you go to university, they give you all kinds of jumped up, highfalutin ideas about how wonderful your life is going to be. How they're going to make it all for you. All you have to do is do as you're told. Actually, you should go into university with an objective mind. Your objective mind should be, I'm here to finish. And finish well. A lot of what I'm regurgitating, a lot of what I'm writing, I may not believe it, and you shouldn't, because a lot of it is wrong. But regurgitate it anyway and get your degree, because it really counts towards your future. I've learned this the hard way. I've got $100,000 worth of debt and no degree at the moment. I'm about to finish. It's taken me a very long time to get my degree, because I never learned my lesson. I didn't back down. I stuck to my guns. I really paid for it heavily. I've actually done my degree in 6 years, not 3. Work it out, yeah? You'll pay for it heavily. Next slide, please. There is a man in the world who has decided to put up a very good fight. His name is Scott Armstrong. He's a scientist here in the United States, and he decided that because there is so much junk information in the scientific realm, that there should be regulations put in place. That we should actually be able to check if the scientific information being published is worth even reading in the first place. Is it worth even taking it into account? Because a lot of it's just regurgitated from the last guy. Scott Armstrong created a scientific checklist. Click. And he did this specifically to target people who can review scientific information without any academic training at all. That means any of you can take a scientific checklist, click, and you can read up any scientific document, and you can say, is this worth my time? Yes or no? I'm not talking about your time at university. I'm talking about your time personally. Some of the best doctors and scientists in the world take the rules into their own hands. They learn what is and isn't right, irrelevant of what the government say. The United Kingdom right now has got a massive problem with false information in academia and false information in science, particularly medical science, where wrong information is going to the public and it's getting people killed. That's the truth of it. There's a huge suicide rate at British universities. At my university alone, there was 15 dead people in 4 years. One of them is still missing, and he was a very close friend of mine. I know why he went missing, and it was because the university was persecuting him because he knew what I knew, and he ran, and he was never seen again. I left at the same time as he did. I survived, he didn't. That's the truth. He's still a missing person today. His name is Matthew Bones. You can look him up on Google. You can see that he's missing, and he's been missing for 18 months. Now, when you look at scientific information in academia, it's awfully dull for a lot of you. A lot of you have got to sit there and you're going to be doing night shifts on Doritos and dips and sitting there and getting fat and spotty and doing all sorts of coursework you really don't like. That's university life for you. Get used to it. It's horrible. It's hell. But you will get a degree out the other end, and I can promise you, you will get proper jobs at the end of it. Probably nowhere near the subject that you studied, but it is essential that you get your degree. Absolutely essential. In my opinion, you should study from home. You should do remote studies and not even get involved in the social aspects of university. Trust me, it's not worth it. It really isn't. It's expensive, brainwashing, socialist garbage, and it's not worth your time of day. Next slide, please. This website that I pulled off this afternoon looks like they're having a wonderful time at the Church of Scientology. Now I'm going to get into a topic for you that we've covered a little bit with the good Reverend earlier on. How can a scientific society have a church when science itself attacks Christianity at every chance it can get? Oh, because do as I say, not as I do. Really? You sure? Most of the great scientists in history have been Jewish and Christian. And the reason why they've been great scientists is because they have a bedlining of moral values. And those moral values say that you are pursuing the truth. That truth is objective truth, not subjective. Objective truth is fact. Fact that you cannot argue by different political perspectives. Here's a fact for you. I'm going to die, and so are you. Just a matter of time. I promise you some socialists will argue that one day, right? That's an objective fact. It's an objective truth. Scientists these days, well, everything is subjective. A lot of scientific research that you'll see at the universities will be literacy-based. Oh, I'm saying it because this guy said it, and that guy said it, and this guy said it, and the Ponzi scheme behind me of all these other people who said it before me, I support them. But there's no truth behind it. There's no truth at all. When you go to university, when you go to college, stick to your guns. Don't stand down. Do not let the socialist university agenda get into your mind. Stick to your Christian values, because when you reach my age, at the age of 30, you'll realize it's not worth it. I was a heavy-duty socialist when I was 19. I ran a climate change company. I had an office here in San Francisco. I had an office in the United Kingdom. I sold wind turbine solar panels. I was a 100% believer. And then I started looking at the numbers and the facts, and it just did not add up. I shut the company down. I went to university to find the truth. Couldn't find it there either. That's the truth of it. A lot of you may think, oh, there's a small community of people here who come Camp Constitution. What you don't realise is Lord Monckton and Willie Soon and a collection of other people who are here, some of the brightest people on the planet. Willie Soon has been studying atmospheric sciences and planetary sciences all of his life. He has been attacked all of his life because he has challenged every single scientific front that he has faced and said it may be right or it may not be right. But we need to find the truth. And they have attacked him time and time again. He's still here. He's still alive. Lord Monckton, well, I'll let him explain what he did when he does his presentation. The list is long and the list is fruitful. He's done so much in his life about fighting for the truth. He's basically an angel on earth. I'm not going to lie. Me, well, I'm 30. I'm still about to get my degree. A lot of you are going to get your degree long before I will. But what I want you to take home from today's presentation this evening is the following. That's the wrong way around. Click. This is the message I want you to go home from this camp when it comes to science. Click. Without religion, there is no morality. Without morality, there is no true science. If you've got lecturers, if you've got people talking science who are not religious, walk away. All you're going to get is a pack of lies. And when you fail to listen to them, they'll then refuse to debate with you. They won't argue with you. They won't debate with you. They'll say, you lost the argument, walk away. And so you should. They will never debate with you because they are not people who believe in the truth. They never have been. They never will be. And they will always shut you down. And you know what? Take it on the nose. I have. Loads of us have. Put your hands up here if you've actually taken it on the nose, that you've searched for truth, adults. And you've been shot down for it. Willie, you can put your hand up as well. Right? All these people have been there. All these people have done it. Right now, in your generation, you're going to see a civil war. That's a promise. You're going to see a civil war in your lifetime. That war will start because the truth has never been under more attack than it is today. It starts there and it works its way down. You may like it, you may hate it. I hate the idea. I left the United Kingdom because the UK is going to go first. Just a matter of time. There's a tinderbox waiting to go up. You may hear this from old men, you may hear this from young men, you may hear it from radio stations prancing on about how the end of the world is coming. It's not the end of the world, it's just the end of an era.
Yes.
Yeah? And the most important thing that all of us can do is stand true to each other and stand true to God. Thank you very much. The reason why I say don't challenge people at university is because they will go so far as to kill you. And they have done. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen them actually killing students because they will not comply to the political consensus at the university. And there are people here who have got evidence and witnessed it with other people who have died in the United States in the same result. Universities are one of the most dangerous places you can go now for young people. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a dangerous place. Yeah? Don't be afraid of it because you're supposed to be Christian, you're supposed to face it all, no matter what. Yeah? But people are dying at universities because they will not comply to the communist revolution that's happening worldwide. That's the truth. So just be careful and stand up for each other no matter what. That's what I'm going to say all. Yes?
What part of the educational system and getting your degree, which part of that is most valuable?
What area is most valuable, degree-wise?
The entire process, which part of that?
I would say the most valuable area is actually being able to decipher information accurately. When you're at university, you are actually asked to revise and look through academic information, and you'll quickly realize that you may be actually smarter than your lecturer. I found that on several occasions. When I showed you the slide about the 2 principles of science and the actual studies, I actually had to give a lecture email to 2 of my lecturers this term explaining how that works because they didn't understand their own module material themselves. Yeah, so I think the most valuable thing is to know your own stuff as better than they do and do it to the best of your ability and learn how to decipher information is the most important thing you'll learn in your life. If you know you can decipher fact from fiction and you can know when the maths has been fuddled and it's not true, you're on a winner. You really are. Yes?
You said that you could have gotten your degree in 3 years, but it was 6 years. What exactly did they do between 6 years?
Well, it's a unpleasant story. I'm not going to go into details, but socialists and communists don't believe in truth, and they will go so far as to slander and smear anybody who will not support them, even students. And they'll also persecute their grades, so you have to retake years. That happened to me. They'll go to huge lengths to try and make sure you don't get the degree standard. Because once you've got that, you're highly more valuable to society, and you're able to actually go off and do professional work that will countermand what they're saying, and they don't want you to have that qualification. It's too dangerous for them. The Communist Party started invading the educational system 45 years ago, and it's got steadily worse ever since. A vast majority of them, there was a thing called the Cambridge Five in the 1980s, where 5 university professors at the University of Cambridge were actually spies for the Soviet Union. And they were exchanged with spies who were British from the Soviet Union in return. And they thought, oh, that will put all the universities' lecturers in their box. That will stop them being communist. They hit the tip of the iceberg. There were millions of them. A man called Pachepa openly admitted when he defected from the So he was the highest ranking intelligence general for the Soviet Union. He defected to the United States, and when he did, he openly admitted that he had 3 million Soviet spies in the academic industry in the United States, and that was in late 1980s. That was 3 million lecturers who were working for the Soviet Union at the time, and he was on first-name terms with all of them. So if you have any idea how bad it must be now, it's got to be cataclysmic. But on the bright side, we've got 1 or 2 people in government who are sorting it out. Yeah?
What do you mean by civil war? Like you said, in an era like...
Human history is a very clearly laid out thing. We've got 2,000 years of it, and you can actually tell that there is a cycle that we go through in countries and in continents. And the first thing that you look for when a continent or a country is going downhill is attack on the truth. We were discussing over dinner the fact that dictionaries today are very different from what they were 40 years ago, and they're exactly the same words. So the definition of a certain word will be totally different today than it was 40 years ago. How can that be? Yeah? The truth of the matter is that we're under siege. The truth seekers, the Christians, the people who actually are seeking out the truth, particularly the Jewish community, are under siege on a massive, massive scale. And we're seeing it all over the world. Today, there are more Christians persecuted and murdered than any other religious sect in the world. That's the truth. So I would say the first thing you look for is persecution of the truth. The second thing you'd look for is where you've got hangman courts, where the legal system is bang, bang, you're nicked, plead guilty or else you're dead. The United Kingdom has got that now. There is no human rights in the United Kingdom. There is no legal system that's justifiable. If you're nicked, you're nicked. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I've seen loads of people go down that road and think, oh, I'll defend myself, it'll be all right in the end, and the legal system just steamrolls them. There's no justice at all. So my answer to your question is basically when the tipping point you get to is where fundamental truth is no longer valued in society, you get anarchy. That's a tipping point, and the United Kingdom is there right now. There is only one man in the United Kingdom who can set it down the right path. His name is Nigel Farage, and he's doing the best job he can. But he's under serious threat by people who are totally deceitful. And unfortunately, a combination of disinformation and glasnost, which are two Russian, Soviet Union communist techniques, I question if he's ever going to make the change. Because I don't think the British society, I don't think the global Communist Party is going to let him get that far. I think they're going to shut him down beforehand. Those two just asked a question, got beans. Catch. Yes, your question.
What's interesting about the times that we live in too is that we never lived in such a digital time where things like Wikipedia is now the Webster's Dictionary, right?
Yeah, Wikipedia is owned by George Soros. Don't trust it for a second.
Right, so we've now created, just like Mr. Sherman was saying, that all these libraries want to get rid of their books, right? Like, why? Why are they...
The libraries are getting rid of books that challenge the communist agenda, and they're doing it systematically around the world, and they're trying to get rid of them permanently. There are banks of those books that are safe. So if you want to get that information, ask, and I'll point you in the right direction.
Right, so now everything that is digital, like Alexa, right?
Yeah, the digitization of books is so that they can control what is and is not published. Myself and Lord Monckton's paper has been out to publish for 3 years, and we've had no responses in the last 18 months from anybody because it's right and they don't want to publish it because it's going to hurt them so badly. But it's going to cost Great Britain hundreds of millions of pounds when it's published. That's how much it's going to cost them because they've lied.
So who's the guy that goes to college campuses and says, change my mind? Stephen Crowder. So Stephen Crowder, you guys might have seen this thing on YouTube where he's got the Alexa, and he says, Alexa, who is Muhammad? Right?
Yeah.
You guys see this? And he says, like, Muhammad is, in the 600s, and he gives the whole historical data, and he says, Alexa, who is Jesus?
Yeah, that's absolutely true, and that does happen.
Yeah, fictional character. And this is how the digital era is controlling.
When I want to have a religious retreat, when I want to have some time to myself, the first thing that happens is all my electronics get binned. I empty my house of all electronics, televisions, mobile phones, computers, everything. Even if it's on standby, those microphones can be turned on. The technology was developed in the 1960s by the British government. The telephones that you had with BT Telecom, even when they're hung up, they could listen in on what you're saying in the room. And that was a wired telephone on the wall. And they had a microphone in them that would turn on automatically, and they could listen in on anything. A couple of terrorist attacks in the 1970s, they were completely blown apart by the SAS because they were listening in on everything that they were saying from those mobile phones hooked on the walls, and the terrorists didn't realize they were turned on the entire time. So if you think that those big blocky phones with the wind-up dial are able to turn on remotely and they can listen in on your conversation, so can every other electronic item in your house, including your television, your microwave. There are microphones in almost everything now that's got a microprocessor board. Next question. I've got 2 more bags of beans, so get thinking. Yes. Sorry, I can't hear you. If you didn't hear her question was, what happens to people who don't believe it and then they start believing it? When they go to university, they get this information, they start believing all that information. Is that right? That's called communism. That's what they do. Yeah, it's called disinformation, and there's a book written by Ian Mihai Pacepa that explains how all of that works and how it is based on you have a small granule of truth and they'll create a tree of lies from it. And because there's a small granule of truth, they'll believe it. Those who go to university and start believing all of that, the best thing you can do is pray for them, because they have to come to their own mind and realize this is wrong. I'm wrong. I've been taught wrong. I've got to accept that everything I know is a pack of lies. And that takes a huge amount of courage. That takes a huge amount of commitment to say, actually, my degree is worthless. Now, if you accept it from the beginning, you're okay, yeah? But if you go out the other side of it and realize it's a pack of lies, you're like, where do I go now? What do I do now? What do I believe? Who do I believe? What can I do for a job? If I don't believe in this stuff, I can't talk about it. I can't do it for a living. You know, you can go into subjects like mathematics. You can go into nursing. You can go into legal work to an extent, maybe. There are subjects you can study that are pure, that are not politically corroded as much as they could be. But the terminology they use is still corrupted to a massive degree. So if you know someone who's gone down that road, the best thing I could say is pray for them. And sometimes just ask an open-ended question and get them thinking. Questioning, without answering it for them, is the best thing you can do for them. So, there's loads of questions, yes.
So, if we want to go into the sciences and we can't trust what we're taught in school, what should we do?
If you can't trust what you're taught in school, which you can't, the best thing you can do is boil down exactly what they are asking of you, and then derive from that what they're expecting you to say. Read between the lines. Yeah, if they're asking you questions about history, they're clearly wanting you to answer it in a certain way that supports their mindset and the way they think. There are very few lecturers and teachers these days who will want you to give your opinion. They just want you to regurgitate what they taught you, because you'll pass the test, you'll pass the coursework, you'll get good grades, they look wonderful in front of the head teacher, and the Global Communist Party will give them a slap on the back. So go in with a clear head, know exactly that's what's going to happen to you, answer the questions and get out of there. Go have a beer with your mates, but go have a beer with your mates, as you're probably going to meet a few ladies and take them out for dinner and whatever else, yeah? Do what young people do, but don't take it too seriously at college. Just pass, because life really begins when you hit the big bad working world and you're doing 50-hour weeks. That's when life really kicks in. Yeah? Next question, yes. Here's my phone.
So between going to a Christian college or a secular university, would you pick the Christian college because perhaps you wouldn't get so much of the hate that you're talking about, or would you pick the secular university where you would be more applicable for a job because it's a higher academic?
Cool. Okay, well, we all know that there are some people who claim to be Christian who aren't quite the Christians you'd expect them to be, or don't hold up to your standards, yeah? There's a huge variety of different Christian sects in the United States, and to be honest with you, I'm still getting my head around it all. There's so many different churches, so many different derivatives of it. I'm like, how did this happen? What? So what I'd say to you about school, secondary school and going to Christian school, is stick to your guns. When you go to college, I'd say 90% of them may not be Christian, they may not be religious at all. Smile, be polite, say yes and listen to them, then walk away. Just stick to your guns, because eventually they're going to crash and burn. And when they do, it's going to be spectacular. And you'll be standing there going, yeah, I got one or two things up my sleeve, or somebody looking over my shoulder that you haven't thought of. Yeah? Stick to your guns and study what you need to study. And pass.
And just as an offering, as a suggestion, if you're looking at a Christian thing, quite like you said, because it says it's Christian, doesn't mean it is. You know, if it smells like, tastes like, it looks like, maybe it is. But a lot of times these places don't smell like, look like, taste like Christian.
You got a very good point. You got a very good point.
For instance, for my youngest daughter, we were checking out Lancaster Bible College. Lancaster Bible College.
Mm-hmm.
The catchword on that day of orientation, or that day of open house, was social justice.
What a lovely buzzword, isn't it?
The communist movement.
Well, the communist movement will hijack those lovely buzzwords. The actual term buzzword is a part of disinformation. Yeah, the word buzzword is something that everybody catches hold of. Nobody actually knows exactly what it means, but they think they have a good idea. Yeah, and it's completely misleading. You've got a very good point. I'm going to be a bit crude now, but when your dog makes a mess, if it looks like poop and it smells like poop, it's probably going to be poop. Okay? Now, the United States Security Services works on gut instinct. And because you've all been brought up as Christians, you're going to have a pretty strong gut instinct about who are good people and who are bad people, who make your skin crawl and who don't. Yeah? Some people you may feel a bit threatened by. Some people you won't. What I would say to you is trust that 100%. Trust it. Because that's not just your gut instinct, that's God's just going, hey, stay away from them, they're going to get you hurt. Tickle, tickle on the ear, get out of there. Yeah? Bear that in mind. But you are right. It's quite funny. I've got a family member who's a devout Christian. And I would argue to the end of my days that he's not one, because of the way he behaves. There is a huge difference between some Christians and others, and you have to set your own standard and you have to stick to it. And it's the same with school, it's the same with work. You have to stick to your guns and just have to stay with it, because what they want to do is fragment the Christian society and the Christian belief, and they're doing a very good job of it. There are people now, in Boston, there's the gay pride flag outside every single church, and I wish that those Christians knew where that flag came from and what it represents. It's one of the biggest Soviet Union communist money laundering markets in the world. They funnel money into those companies and the companies that support that flag the world over. And that money pours into disinformation campaigns, it pours into corrupt politicians' pockets, it pours into lawyers' pockets, it liquidates all the values that this country once had and all the values that England once had. I'm not saying I'm against gay people having the right to live. I think they have a right to live. I think that they've got some aspects to their life that I would say that I wouldn't want to live myself. Yeah? That's not my choice, that's their choice, and they have the right to have a personal choice. But what I would say is them saying that we're so heavily persecuted, don't you know what we're facing every day? I've had gay friends in multiple cities all over England, and they've been friends. I haven't judged them or persecuted them for it, and I don't know anybody else who has. And I'm a Christian man, and I'm just like, yeah, that's your choice, this is my choice, I have my religion, you have your way of life, but we can still have a beer together, we can still have a laugh, you can do your thing, behind closed doors, it's fine. I'm not going to judge you for it, because the only person I'm going to allow to judge me is God. I'm not going to go judging other people. But the point I'm getting to with you is that the scale of the disinformation in the United States is absolutely enormous. I would say when you're at university, trust nobody. You never know who you're talking to. You never know who they're reporting to. You never know what reports they may be writing on you. Go in, do your coursework, get out. Go to college, do your coursework, get out. And stick close to the friends that you know. That's the best advice I can give you.